Hello and thanks for being with us. I'm Ana Cabrera in New York. Facebook under fire. Facebook whistleblower Frances Haugen providing explosive Senate testimony today, laying out Facebook's calculated decisions to prioritize profits, she says, over the mental health of children using their apps, comparing big tech to big tobacco.
When we realized big tobacco was hiding the harms it caused, the government took action. When we figured out cars were safer with seatbelts, the government took action. And when our government learned that opioids were taking lives, the government took action. I implore you to do the same here.
Her testimony comes as the company's stocks slide. Yesterday, a nearly 5% drop lost CEO Mark Zuckerberg $6 billion with a B in the span of just a few hours. Now, that hit coincided with Monday's worldwide outage for Facebook and two major Facebook-owned services, Instagram and WhatsApp. The first domino that really set off this stretch of bad news was Frances Haugen. Last month, she leaked thousands of internal records to the Wall Street Journal, and those documents indicate Facebook has shrugged off hard evidence showing the damage its Instagram platform was doing, including its potentially toxic effect on teens, especially girls. CNN's Donie O'Sullivan has been all over this story. And Donie, you've been listening closely to this testimony at this hearing. We heard a pretty disturbing account of a social media giant that apparently is willing to grow at all costs.
Yeah, Frances Haugen, the Facebook whistleblower, is proving to be an incredibly powerful witness. She's a tech insider, but she's able to speak and explain these, rather complicated algorithms and how these systems work in a way that normal people can understand. Have a listen.
Facebook understands that if they want to continue to grow, they have to find new users. They have to make sure that the next generation is just as engaged with Instagram as the current one. And the way they'll do that is by making sure that children establish habits before they have good self-regulation.
By hooking kids.
By hooking kids. I would like to emphasize one of the documents that we sent in on problematic use examined the rates of problematic use by age, and that peaked with 14-year-olds. It's just like cigarettes. Teenagers don't have good self-regulation. They say explicitly, I feel bad when I use Instagram, and yet I can't stop.
Senators on both sides of the aisle here seem to be rather impressed by Haugen, even suggesting that they could work towards some bipartisan legislation to crack down on Facebook. Anna?
Facebook has weathered numerous scandals over the past several years. Is this one different?
I think it really, really is. In the past, it's been Cambridge Analytica, it's been about data, it's been about Russian trolls, all that sort of thing. This is about the most vulnerable people in our society, children. It's about young people, and unfortunately, it's an incredibly relatable story, the one that she is telling, of how these algorithms are promoting accounts to young girls about eating disorders and anorexia, things like that, and how misinformation is being, and hate is being amplified throughout their platform. So I think the fact that this is about children, frankly, it's a conversation that we all should have been having a very, very long time ago. I think that is what is different, and I think that is where we're seeing this bipartisanship.
Donie O'Sullivan, you've done a great job reporting on this issue. Thank you for being our eyes and ears inside this hearing. We'll check back with you. Let's bring in child psychiatrist Dr. Victoria Dunckley now. She studies the impact of screens on children. She's the author of Reset Your Child's Brain. Doctor, great to have you with us. Thanks for being here. As a parent myself, I've been listening very closely to this testimony, and it is so disturbing. Really hits close to home for me personally, as I have a child almost 10 years old. For years, you've been, raising the alarm about the harmful effects social media could be having on kids. Was there anything you've heard from this whistleblower that's made you think, oh, this is worse than I thought?
I don't think it's worse than I thought, but it's definitely, in a way, the silver lining of all of this is that it's coming to everyone's attention. Those of us who are in the trenches have known these things are going on with these big tech companies for years. They're beholden to shareholders. They're not beholden to the general public. That's not in their best interest. So I think one of the things about the study that was interesting to me is that they're asking the kids themselves if they feel better or worse after using these platforms. But when someone's addicted to something, they don't have the insight, and they're using it in some way because they're addicted to it. So my thought about the study is that these impacts are actually worse than the study is revealing, because you're asking people who are impacted by addictive processes.
And they may not be as honest even with themselves about the negative effects or harmfulness of some of the platforms they're using.
Right. And the whole self-regulation piece, once that addictive processes get activated, self-regulation gets worse over time. And what happens is impulse control, self-discipline, judgment, all of those things get worse the more that someone uses screens in terms of social media, video games, whatever the activity is. So they tend to have worse judgment over time.
We also heard that these apps may be changing high school itself. Let's watch.
In the case of bullying, Facebook knows that Instagram dramatically changes the experience of high school. When I was in high school, most kids have positive home lives. Like, it doesn't matter how bad it is at school, kids can go home and reset for 16 hours. Kids who are bullied on Instagram, the bullying follows them home. It follows them into their bedrooms. The last thing they see before they go to bed at night is someone being cruel to them, or the first thing they see in the morning is someone being cruel to them. Kids are learning that their own friends, like people who they care about them, are cruel to them. Like, think about how that's going to impact their domestic relationships.
So basically, it's easier to bully, harder to avoid the bullying, and kids are internalizing all of that vitriol. Are these social media sites just inherently dangerous? Should kids be on them at all?
That's, a conversation that really needs to be had, is if it's even appropriate for kids or teens to even be using these sites altogether. So one of the things that I promote is that parents just avoid social media altogether until the child is an adult and can decide for themselves. So there's kind of a growing movement of people who are delaying the use of smartphones, delaying the use of social media, all of those things, because all this research is coming out showing that it impacts their brain. There's actually brain changes that happen over time that we don't know if those are permanent or not, but we know from brain imaging studies that the more screen time someone uses, the more it affects their white matter, the gray matter, the connectivity in the brain. So these things are really concerning. And, I think I would like to see it go the way of tobacco, that we are looking at these things as something that is addictive and that changes the brain, and therefore it's not appropriate for children at all.
So there's that addiction component that I know, focus a lot of your research on, but I want to read a couple of other quotes from Facebook's internal research that was leaked by this whistleblower. Said 32% of teen girls said that when they felt bad about their bodies, Instagram made them feel worse. Teens blame Instagram for increases in the rate of anxiety and depression. And one presentation showed among teens who reported suicidal thoughts, 13% of British users and 6% of American users traced the desire to kill themselves to Instagram. So, this is just so disturbing, so worrisome. Why do you think Facebook platform Instagram is having this kind of impact on teens?
I think, as other experts have mentioned, one thing that's specific to Instagram is it's very focused on image. It's just, it's showing your best life. It's showing, it's using filters. It's not real. And then if you look at that, and especially as a teen, you're constantly comparing. So I think Instagram in particular is harmful in that way. But really, all of these social media platforms can have, impacts like that, not just in terms of content, but in terms of the physiological impacts and the addictive component.
Facebook is aware of all this. They haven't really addressed it. The Wall Street Journal reports that even, they try to downplay this aspect in public. What do you think needs to happen? One, for accountability, and two, to create a less harmful experience?
Well, I'm not sure if there can be a less harmful experience. I think, what the research shows is that the kids who can tolerate social media or who might benefit from it are kids who are already very healthy. So their brain is already more resilient. They have a good home life. They have high self-esteem, and maybe they benefit a little bit from joining a particular group. That's a small minority compared to the kids who are actually using it, who are desperate or lonely or, have something going on, especially compounded by the pandemic. So I just think we just really need to, as parents and health clinicians and educators, we really just, I feel like there needs to be just a push away from social media altogether. And, and sometimes it just takes trying it for a few weeks and parents can let it go and they can see the relief in their child. And they can see that they're sleeping better, they're happier. And sometimes kids need an excuse, and having the parent remove it is their excuse for getting off of it.
Well, really appreciate that guidance and advice. Dr. Victoria Dunckley, thank you so much for joining us and providing your insights.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you for having me.